Person just wants to reaction. This is History Makers, Sun Tzu and the Art of War. Bachchan Warrior Sarcastic production. Yeah, it's been a while since I did a history video. Obviously, this is from the blue of OSP, History Makers. It's gonna be interesting. So yeah, Sun Tzu feels like a topic that a lot of people should cover, but most people somehow doesn't, especially historical channel. Look at OSP after this long time, they covered it. It feels like they should be one of the first topics, but yeah, Sun Tzu is such a famous figure, right? Also overblown figure because people just like, I'm pretty sure a lot of things, oh, Sun Tzu said that. Probably Sun Tzu didn't say it because he just I feel like that must be that case, right? Because that happens a lot. That happens with Einstein and other scientific figure as well. So Sun Tzu, obviously the art of war, that's what it's based on, right? Some of the things he said feels obvious, but then again, I've said that many times in the past, like with hindsight, everything feels like similar. Oh, why are you saying that? It's like gravity, yeah, gravity. Why did it take Newton that? No, it's like nobody was thinking it. Thinking the first time is it's hard, especially if you're gonna make a book about war. Even the simplistic thing might escape you, let's just say. So yeah, I don't know how effective the art of war was for the culture or whatever back then, but I don't know, it's going to be interesting. I'm guessing Blue will cover all the topic from the like historical time period, like how it was and everything. I don't know much about obviously time period around this time, so yeah, it's going to be fun. Let's do it. Remember, if you like my don't forget to subscribe, so I know which type of videos to react to more. Algorithm sometimes goes crazy. I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna get same views I used to get on OSP reactions because I've been watching military videos a lot recently. So the algorithm sometimes goes crazy like that. So by liking and commenting, you can help the algorithm, I guess. And yeah, that's what it.
Catalog of classics, be it hundreds of years old or thousands, we always have to cross a layer of abstraction before we can really understand the text. Even after accounting for language translation, we still have to consider the historical setting of the book, its cultural context, idiosyncrasies of the style, and the original intended audience. Some ancient books can feel surprisingly modern to readers because of timeless themes or lasting influences on everything that came after. That's why 16th century Chinese epic The Journey to the West reads like second nature to anyone who's ever seen Goku fire off a Kamehameha. It's medieval, it's folkloric, but it's the ancestor of anime, so the barrier to entry is little more than a good translation and some free time. Then, on the far opposite end of the spectrum are the books that are just plain tough. The works that, for all their fame, ask a lot of the reader before anything makes a lick of sense. And here we find Sun Tzu's The Art of War, a rather brief text so fascinatingly terse and bound up in its original historical context that it seems at once empty and utterly indecipherable. This book is everywhere, from military training to political science to business school, yuck, but the pop culture understanding of Sun Tzu's ancient military manual lacks the context to be anything more than one-dimensional platitudes. Ponder and deliberate before you make a move. Wow,
Wait a minute, is it Sun Tzu or Sun Wu? Why did it say Sun Wu?
hadn't considered being smart before. I'll try that next time. Another banger by Sun Tzu. What next if your enemy's shooting arrows at you, consider not getting shot by them? Golly, victory's as good as mine. This is the ungenerous read.
See, that I was saying, like some of the things feel so obvious, but you need to say it, right? And obviously, like this intent to basically, like broader area, like it's supposed to be for everyone. So like simplistic things might be like, okay, don't touch the fire or something, don't get shot in the leg by arrow, don't get hit in the the Skyrim quote. Don't make sure you don't get hit in the knee with an arrow or whatever, right? So you don't like run away from your duties or whatever. It feels simplistic, but then again, this was like, I don't know, could be aimed at like royalties and things who like never been in the lower class and like been on the battlefield and things like that. Who knows what this was for? And yeah.
A position I myself held when I first read The Art of War several years back, and it's the equal and opposite perspective to the goobers who smugly treat The Art of War as corporate business advice. We differ in our patience for the pithy one-liners, but both camps generally misunderstand the point of the text by ignoring its context and purpose. So the reading lacks any nuance regardless of whether we're being cynical or glib. But look more carefully and take the text as a whole rather than tiny isolated quotes, and there's a lot to learn. Master Sun's military methods, as it was originally titled, was written at a time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was for the nobles or something who's never been in the like mud or whatever, like never been in the actual thing. So even the simplistic things might be too much for them.
time of serious interstate competition and cultural change in ancient China. With the context of this evolving society, The Art of War reads as a deeply philosophical treatise on the methodology of warfare. It was a brand new mindset for a previously unexplored topic in Chinese literature, and it can tell us as much about China as it can about warfare. To see how, let's do some history. As always, our first angle of attack for the wily world of literature is figuring out our author. In this case, it's Master Sun, Sun Tzu, the honorific title given to the general Sun Wu, who's said to have lived around 500 BC. This places him at the tail end of the spring and autumn period. 3 centuries of competition between dozens of small local states stepping into the power vacuum left by a weakened Zhou dynasty. This soon gave way to the Warring States period. 3 more centuries of increasingly fierce warfare between a dwindling handful of powerful states, snowballing into the ascension of the Qin dynasty in 221 BC. To grossly simplify 2 of the most fascinating periods in Chinese political and cultural history, spring and autumn is the soap opera, Warring States is the cage fight. Details on the life of our famous general are expectedly slim, but the primary narrative comes our way in the records of the Grand Historian by Sima Xian, wherein Sun rolled into the state of Wu and demonstrated his skill to Lord He Liu by lining up 180 royal concubines and assigning 2 to be in charge of drilling military formations. Naturally, this didn't work very well, and they all burst into fits of laughter at how silly the whole thing was, until, of course, Sun Wu ordered that the 2 concubines in charge get beheaded for lack of discipline. He then brought 2 brand new promising young leaders to the front of the class and ran the exercise again. This time, the results were flawless. Wow! Logic went that if Sun Wu could wring such a performance out of untrained concubines after a measly 2 executions, imagine what he could do with a whole-ass army.
I'm sorry, I need to make an impact, so you're not gonna have head anymore. Isn't that extreme? Yeah, it's called impact. I need this, it's a job interview.
And so he was made a general on the spot. This story is patently ridiculous, but it conveys that the character of Sun Wu wrote from experience and puts him at a distinct moment in time, running the military for the state of Wu during the reign of Lord He Liu, 514 to 496 BC. If life was easy, this would be the end of it. We've got our guy right at the tail end of the spring and autumn. However, issues arise as the story first appears during the Han Dynasty centuries after the fact and cites him as winning the Battle of Boji. But a detailed account of that battle from 2 centuries earlier doesn't mention our boy in the slightest. This is the first in a series of narrative wrinkles that add together to—
Oh no, is this like one of those things? Oh my god. Is he the guy who okay, I'm gonna write myself in history and whoever has the pen is the victor? What the fuck? It's okay. It's who was that? It's Willy Manili, whatever, right? They were never singers or something, but it was all just an act. So basically, he's just gonna write himself into the things or something. If you just pare it down and read it, he was never there.
To create a very problematic web of contradictions against the neat and tidy tale we get from Sima Xian. Sun Wu can be viewed as a real person who wrote a military treatise, but it's just as likely he is a pure fable invented after the fact to be historical provenance for a military manual that was written anonymously during the Warring States period. If so, it wouldn't be an outlier, as this era saw the 100 schools of thought building literary and philosophical traditions across China. Confucianism was one such school whose essential texts were written by many hands over a long stretch of time. That rolling composition could also account for anachronisms like 4th century crossbows showing up in the text. And the earliest copy of The Art of War we have
I don't exist, Sun Tzu.
Is from pretty dang late. It was discovered alongside another military manual in an early Han Dynasty tomb from around when the book gained widespread popularity. It's a fascinating find for several reasons, but both camps cited it as proof of their interpretation, either affirming or disproving a historical Sun Tzu. So ultimately, the authorship is an open question, and I'm certainly not going to be the guy who figures it out, but that's okay because we are still left with the most important thing, the text. And that is plenty. In a culture that was used to throwing chariot-mounted aristocrats at each other, The Art of War radically rethinks what strategy means and how it's applied. Battles are no longer contests of raw force. If your enemy is temperamental, seek to irritate him. The rules have changed, and this is a far more intricate game. Most famously, all warfare is based on deception. So if scouts can spot an army in the distance by the smoke rising from camp, light a buttload of fires to make your army appear larger in the hopes of scaring them off. The whole book is like this. The first 2 chapters are preparation for war and waging campaigns, the middle 10 are tactics in the field, and the last is spycraft. But all of it is a study of information,
Yeah, it makes sense. Everything's deception in warfare. Makes sense because everything warfare is like prediction, right? So you predict things about your enemy and you like work on it. But if you predict something wrong, you just lost everything, and that's what deception comes in, right? So if you deceive your enemy, the enemy doesn't even come close to like figuring out what you're doing. So yeah.
Preparedness and mental maneuvering, understanding your terrain, your opponent, your own constraints, what advantages you can press. By the time armies actually meet on the field, it's already decided, and battle is absolutely the last resort. It's far more effective to undermine an enemy's strategy or subvert their alliances before drawing any swords, and even that's preferable to wasting weeks or months besieging a city. Deception and stratagems aren't just effective, they're efficient, and the general's true skill is achieving strategic advantage for their state with or without killing the other guy. From a purely military standpoint, Sun Tzu captures the essence of all-out conflict in the Warring States period, and that alone is historically insightful, but the real depth of the book comes out when read philosophically through the lens of Daoism. Now, Daoism is famously about seeking harmony by following a heavenly path, a practice that seems categorically at odds with the study of warfare. On paper, sure, but Daoism is all about untangling contradictions. The Daoist view sees everything in relation to a greater whole, just like the general must understand the terrain, the enemy, and themselves in order to craft a strategy. Every detail interacts. Similarly Daoist is the concept of wu wei, often rendered as non-action, but better understood as effortless action. Sun Tzu wants the simplest approach with the lightest touch. Avoid protracted campaigns at all costs, overcome the enemy without wasteful battles, undermine their strategy and alliances before jumping to war. Resorting to combat is a failure of strategy, so when conflict is inevitable, spend the least amount of effort necessary to restore harmony. The highest excellence is to subdue the enemy's army without fighting at all. That suddenly sounds a lot less like fortune cookie nonsense and more like real Daoist philosophy of effortless action. And the original intended audience would have known exactly that this is the point. This context transforms the entire book. The general then takes on the air of a philosopher, pursuing harmony for their state in accordance with the heavenly Tao through strategy. Yield and overcome, bend and become straight, empty and become full, adapt to circumstance, adapt to your enemy. That's all classic Daoism.
Ah yes, yield and overcome, bend and become straight, empty and become full. Yeah, this is the type of thing like take your medicine, man. Yeah, I understand what the point is, obviously. Okay.
One step further, the whole book parallels Chinese rhetoric. Unlike the Greek rhetoric of persuasive argumentation, Daoist rhetoric aims to cultivate harmonious relationships and achieve self-enlightenment through inward contemplation. Only speak if it improves on silence. Only fight a battle if you absolutely have to. Both arts value efficiency, and neither seeks to be loud. In both cases, the key character strength of the philosopher general is
obviously seeing all this like warfare, like this period and everything, right? Warring state periods and everything. Obviously nobody listened to him because every single place, everywhere you saw is just like bloodshed everywhere, right? It was never a last resort, right? Take it by strength has always been the thing, right? You can find clever tactics among the warfare, but warfare was always the number one thing. Conquest starts, it never ends. Look at the Alexander the Great. He never stopped until his people like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going home.
Is their understanding. They gather as much information as they can, then all the action happens internally. Philosophically, rhetoric and generalship have the exact same skill set. The Art of War is a philosophy book, and its readers as well as its critics treated it as such. In the 200s BC, a philosopher named Sun Tzu attacked the Art of War's cold rationalism with Confucian ideology, indicating to us that Sun Tzu fit comfortably in philosophy's domain. And the Art of War was not the only philosophical book on military theory, as a work by Wu Shi balances Confucius with Sun Tzu by asserting virtuous character as a prerequisite for military skill. His book, the Wu Tzu, sits alongside The Art of War as one of China's 7 military classics, a medieval best-of list popularized during the Song Dynasty. The Art of War became required reading for the imperial military exams, found huge popularity in medieval Japan, and later informed the guerrilla warfare strategies of Mao Zedong in the 20th century. But while the wider world has become fascinated with the book's military prescriptions, the through line of Daoism that makes it work has been thoroughly lost. The Art of War demonstrates the genius subtleties of Chinese philosophy by operating on multiple levels: military, philosophical, and rhetorical. Cherry-picked quotes are always the enemy of wisdom, but the Art of War got it really rough. I guess I can't feel too bad for Sun Tzu. The man might not even exist, but wouldn't that just be his ultimate deception? To become unbeatable, one must first become Truly the greatest strategic mind in history. Thank you for watching. This is another entry in my...
Basically, Sun, I never fucking said that, Tzu. There you go. Sun, I might not even exist, Tzu. I'm the greatest ninja on the planet. Nobody can find me. Okay. I mean, look, man, time period is like way past when Sun Tzu was even a thing. So whatever you make of it now doesn't really matter that much. It's like always the end result, right? So obviously, Art of War is the most famous book of them all, let alone warfare book. But yeah, obviously there's gonna be like like very, it's based on Daoism and things like that. But yeah, it's very specified thing, so it makes sense. But yeah, Art of War, it's like still today, everybody in the comments or at least one Sun Tzu comment everywhere, right? Wherever you go, there you go. It's like people obviously starts a meme, and the core of the meaning of the meme is it's fucking obvious why you're saying it. That's the joke there. But I always felt like a lot of obvious things are very simplistic, right? Like in any military, a soldier is not supposed to drop their weapons. Common sense, right? But how humans are, that's not always obvious. So that's why you always see in parades and things people spinning their rifles and things, making all these tricks and things. You feel like, what are you trying to stay? What are you trying to do? A circus? You're trying to entertain people? No, they're doing that so they never they're so control of their rifle they never drop it or something. Because even dropping the rifle might be obvious. You need to do things to basically make sure you don't drop it. So simplistic thing might feel similar, but it's really like core of it. Yeah. Alright, well, if you like my next subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you next time.